Great. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. Welcome to our awe-inspiring session on a new fellowship for the Bio-Africa Convention. I'm Kelewogile Lekwape, the Vice President of AfricaBio. To end our National Women's Month on a high and in line with the Bio-Africa empowerment theme, which gives recognition to the important contribution women make to the economy, I have the absolute honor of introducing the Dr. Konji Sibati Fellowship. AfricaBio, in partnership with the Innovative Pharmaceutical Association of South Africa, IPASA, the International Federation of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers and Association, IFPMA, and the University of Sussex is launching a fellowship program that honors the late Ambassador Dr. Konji Sibati, who was the CEO of IPASA and a very active AfricaBio board member. The Dr. Konji Sibati Female Leaders of Tomorrow will offer young female scientists a combination of work experience that is focused on several tracks within the business of science, from innovation management, strategy, finance communication, to science and innovation policy. The Dr. Konji Sibati Female Leaders of Tomorrow Fellowship is open to young female scientists with a minimum requirement of a BSc honors degree or a post-internship training. The Mandela Scholarship, initiated by the University of Sussex in 1973, will offer full tuition for a fellow who successfully completes their one-year program. The fellow is expected to return to the continent after graduation and continue contributing to the goals of building biotechnology innovation for African development in the areas of healthcare, food security, and other life science related fields. Our first speaker in this session is someone with extensive experience in the public health area and who has also worked very closely with Ambassador Dr. Sibati. He is the Assistant Director General of IFPMA, a global organization headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. He will pay tribute to his late colleague. Mike is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And I'm truly personally very honored to have been invited to give this small tribute to Konji. Indeed, a great colleague and a great friend, not just to me, but to many people in the industry, but I can assure you amongst the large number of people in Geneva. And at her memorial service that was conducted, there was a large number of people from Geneva who gave incredible tributes to Konji from her work, from her personal side, and for the amazing character that she had. In a News 24 article that was published online shortly after that service, a number of personal attributes were given to Konji: gentle, charming, determined, hardworking, perfectionist, optimistic, empathetic, compassion, resilient, focused, and selfless. In fact, the title of that article was The Embodiment of Selflessness. And anybody who has worked with Konji in her many areas would have seen many of those traits in doing so. Konji was a community health worker. She started off as such. She became a doctor. She was a business executive. a diplomat, an ambassador for her country, a UN official with WIPO, and then recently a CEO of IPASA, of the innovative pharmaceutical industry. As we know, she achieved all of this and developed what I must say is a beautiful character through personal struggle, through hard work, through sheer determination and great courage, overcoming an apartheid regime and family hardships as well. And I believe she is a great model for young women, not only in South Africa, but for the whole of the continent. I had the honor to know Konji first when I headed the European Generics Industry Association, then at the Medicines Patent Pool, and most recently at IFPMA, where we worked together on African issues. And what I knew from her was such a passion for her country, for Africa, for the development of innovation in general, and for the continent, and equally for access to medical treatments. She had an amazing sense of justice. And when talking to her in my own personal relationships over 3 different sort of career areas, she always wanted to find real solutions, a genuine wish to solve a problem and find a genuine solution. And she was a true believer in partnership. I mean, in many sense, she embodied partnership herself in her own professional experience. At IFPMA and IPASA, we are so proud to remember Konji, and she is sorely missed. But we are delighted, proud, humbled. It's very difficult to find the right words that today we can honor Konji with the launch of this fellowship for women leadership in her name. And this is not only an honor for her memory and the great work for her country and for Africa in general, but it is indeed, I believe, an inspiration for young professional women, for scientists, for the continent. Africa's future, as we know, is its youth. An empowered youth, a confident youth, an innovative youth. And young women scientists and young women professionals from Africa will be key to this future. So I thank AfricaBio and for everyone who have worked together to launch this fellowship. And to Konji, who will be looking down with that unforgivable smile of hers, a thank you for everything that you've done here. And we will all work together to continue your memory and good work, Konji. And as I said, all delighted amongst your friends and colleagues that this fellowship has been launched in your name. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Perry. We appreciate the insights into Dr. Sibati's impact and achievements beyond the borders of South Africa, and hope we continue to strengthen the partnerships that she has established, and in her honor that we continue to keep those running ad infinitum. Thank you. At this point, it is with a great privilege to introduce our guest of honor and speaker. This lady needs very little introduction, having been the first female deputy president of South Africa and the outgoing United Nations Secretary General and Executive Director of UN Women. please help me to welcome the Honorable Dr. Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka.
Thank you very much, and good morning or good afternoon to all of you. And thank you so much for involving me in this program. I'm very happy to be here today to celebrate Konji and the awardees. I'm essentially here because I'm Konji's friend. I used to think I was Konji's best friend until her funeral, when I discovered that she had a lot of best friends. But I'm happy that today I seem to have done better than the other best friends because I am here. I thank you for this award and this program, because honoring women achievers is important for encouraging the women who are coming behind you. There is a correlation between underrepresentation of women in significant areas and positions of authority and the underdevelopment of women and underperformance in the women's agenda. So your contribution is highly appreciated because you are helping to push forward the women's agenda. You also provide yourselves as role models for the women who want to achieve what you have already achieved. In the fight against the coronavirus pandemic and the relief measures that have been provided by governments, we have seen that at least 30% of the relief went to women and to issues affecting girls across the world. And yet we know that the pandemic has also affected them disproportionately. Women have been affected because they are in the informal sector where they were exposed and their businesses were destroyed. In many parts of the world, women would not have insurances. And in many countries, women are not covered by the labor law. So in some situation where there's a dispensation that supports women, they would have been missed. Thankfully, in South Africa, the laws made it possible for women to be covered wherever they are. So it has been important to have women who are spokesperson in most countries so that they can point out to these things. Women were also affected by higher levels of violence, gender-based violence, and they were also affected because they had limited virtual skills and they were unable to move around with their jobs. They have to make a re-entry in the labor market, and that would require women in STEM again to prepare and train women to play their role in the economy in the future. So by highlighting and projecting the women that you are projecting here, you are helping to bring many of these issues forward so that hopefully steps can be taken to correct the situation. Now, this is very much like Konji, to want to be there where there are measures being taken to assist and highlight the plight of women. I remember her for her compassion, which you have already heard about from Greg. I remember her for her care for those who needed to be supported, but I also remembered her just for love of humanity. She loved people and enjoyed making their lives a little bit better. Through your contribution today, you are taking a step in improving the lives of women, and I thank you profusely. I wish the awardees all of the best. I hope they wear their badge of honor high and visible, because in being visible, you are shining the light on yourselves, but making it lighter for all of us. For those who still have the possibility to follow you, this is an opportunity that I hope they will take and follow you. To the organizers today, thank you so much for making this happen. I hope there will be more days like this, and the spirit of Konji will thrive wherever it is, because she can see that what she started with you has not been in vain. It continues to be a beautiful message to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Dr. Mlambo-Ngcuka. Thank you for an enlightening presentation and highlighting and actually bringing to the fore the role that women in STEM can play in particularly the things that the situation that we're currently in right now. So it's very real and very current. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this point, I think we are done with this session. So I would like to hand over to the technical team.
Okay, yeah, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning to those who are joining us from elsewhere around the globe. This is a very exciting session for me to facilitate, and quite fitting considering the launch that we have just had of the Dr. Konjisibati's female fellowship program. Today's session is the Rising Stars session. And in this session, we will be featuring females across Africa who are doing phenomenal work in their respective areas. and it's really an honor to be among them. Some of them are colleagues that I'm very happy to see as we've worked together, and it's really quite inspiring to see the strides that they have all made. And so I hope that you will enjoy this session. We will start the conversation with Dr. Makendra Amstead. She is passionate about making impact on human health and bringing new therapies to patients in need across the globe. She aspires to become a global leader in the challenging yet rewarding pharmaceuticals industry. In her current role as the Associate Director for Global Marketing at EMD Serono, Dr. Makendra drives global commercial strategy, operation, as well as execution for both the launch and inline indications in oncology. Since joining the organization, she contributed to the launch of a number of new therapies for the treatment of specifically cancer, as well as multiple sclerosis. Welcome you, Dr. Makendra. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It is an honor and a pleasure to join this program. Thank you to the organizers of the BioAfrica Convention. I'm really excited to be here and to tell you a bit about my journey. And I'll share with you a short presentation just to help frame the context for what I want to share with you today. So I have a confession to make. Over the past year in this pandemic, I have become a little bit obsessed with plants. I have 19 and counting in my home. I'm even growing a sweet potato here in Boston, Massachusetts, in the US. And I jokingly say, I think it might be the only sweet potato that's being grown in this area. It's not common. But I think why I really enjoy plants is because it's a bit of an analogy for life. And I just want to get a confirmation. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes, we see it clearly.
Awesome, great, okay. So it's an analogy for life, right? There's a combination of seeing growth and seeing pruning and seeing the flourishing and seeing resilience and a harvest that comes from the plant. And for me, this has been a really good and strong analogy for my professional journey. And I'll talk you through that, which I like to call faith, focus, and flourish. So at the beginning of my journey, and at the beginning, or the essential element of a plant, I would call are the roots and the root system. They serve the purpose of establishing the plant in the ground and seeking out and bringing in nutrients, right? And it's essential for the growth of the plant. And for me, I consider my roots my family. I grew up in a supportive family that was very attentive to my interests. They instilled very positive biblical affirmations in me, like verses like, I know the thoughts, that God knows the thoughts that he has for me. Or also sometimes high expectations, to whom much is given, much is required. And these really set the foundations for a belief that I had a purpose here on earth and that it was bigger than me. It actually wasn't about me. And that takes me to the next stage of my journey, which I would call germination. This is a critical period because a lot of the work is happening below the surface. For me, that looked like my parents putting me in sometimes summer camps and extracurricular programs, or for me, I was just having fun with my friends, maybe doing little experiments as a kid. But little did I know what was happening on the inside was developing a curiosity, a drive, and a passion for things related to science. They saw that I was a very curious and inquisitive child, always asking questions. And through those experiences, it really helped to hone in that desire for me. Now, the next phase I call the cultivation phase. And for plants, this is really not just the plant's growth, but the external environment and how it shapes the growth of that plant. Could be the soil, could be the fact that it's a rainy season, could be the gardener's help or the lack of help in the way that plant grows. And for my personal life and my journey, I think of the cultivating period as those pivotal moments that really shaped how I saw the world around me. Sometimes fun things like my first time traveling internationally and getting an exposure of what the world looked like outside of my own hometown. Could have also been classes that I took in college or in high school, things like digital art and media and learning to use Photoshop, or having my first lab experience as a high school student and being able to do experiments in the lab. Really awesome experiences, but also some that were a bit more emotionally challenging. For example, in high school, my mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Very happy to say that she's a breast cancer survivor, but at that moment, my inquisitive nature really shifted to what is cancer? How does it develop? And how can I be a part of developing some sort of treatment or therapies for it? It really gave me the direction or the motivation for my career journey. Now, the next phase is pruning. And I don't know if you know, but pruning can be sometimes a not so exciting process. It's really the cutting back or the trimming of a plant, which seems bad, right? When you initially see that plant afterwards, it's smaller than it used to be. But pruning has a very specific purpose. It allows the plant to re-challenge its energy into a specific positive direction for growth. It reorients towards growth. And for me, that was my PhD program. Yes, it was an amazing experience for me to continue that drive to want to know about cancer research and how do you do it and what's happening at the molecular level in the cells. And I was able to publish and really add some contributions to the field. At the same time, it was a challenge. It was a lesson in self-talk and being able to really hone in your self-doubt to overcome obstacles, the failures of experiments that happened, and being able to really push through and be resilient. It gave me the tools that I needed to be able to persist and succeed. And that brings me to the last phase, or the current phase of my life, which I call the flourish. Now, the definition of flourish is to achieve success, to reach a height of development or a state of thriving. This is the period that I like with my plants in my house because I can see the growth, I can see the foliage, I see how green and shining they are. And for me in my life and throughout my career journey, I consider the flourish as the culmination of all of those stages before it. It's having that motivation to really make an impact in the area of cancer research because of my mom. It's having the foundation of the roots and the faith that my parents instilled in me, that I know that I'm here for a purpose and there's something greater that I want to contribute to and to achieve. And it's also incorporating the things that I realized that I liked growing up: art, music, science. And in my current role as the Associate Director for Global Marketing at a global pharmaceutical company, I'm doing just that. Myself and my team help to bring new therapies to patients around the globe who are living with cancer. And it's an extremely fulfilling and rewarding place. So all of that said, it's my journey of faith, focusing and flourishing, and being more than grateful and excited to be able to continue to do that and hopefully inspire other people to do the same. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I like how you succinctly put it together. And I just want to pose a question around the pruning, because it is around the pruning stage that some people just fall off the science track because it does get difficult. You'll get that feedback from a reviewer who just thrashes your paper and you think, I'm not going to ever write another paper. What kept you going? What kept you going during those very tough times?
That is a great question. And it's one that I had to discover for myself during that pruning process. And for me, it harkens back to really feeling that motivation of a greater purpose. It's more than that initial rejection, or it's more than just that failed experiment, but there's something that you want to achieve, whether it's kind of your personal satisfaction or really a drive to answer a particular scientific question or a contribution that you want to make to the world around you. You realize that getting there is greater than that immediate setback, and being able to really reframe your mind to know that it's worth it in the end. So it's an ongoing journey, I have to say, but I think that earlier and the more that we learn it, it's a practice of being able to be resilient and to bounce back.
And that's just it, right? It teaches you resilience in a manner that you can never comprehend, and you'll always need that skill, right? Great. Thank you so much, and we're going to come back with more questions. Our next speaker in this session is Ms. Mpho, who is the founder and the CEO of Brainwave Medical Group. She's a clinical technologist by profession, and has qualified as the first Black female in South Africa in the speciality of nephrology. She left the pharmaceutical business to pursue her growth path by starting her own company in 2010, Brainwave Medical Group, leveraging her clinical as well as her business expertise. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be here today. And just a correction on the intro before HPCSA comes from me. I'm the first Black female in the subspecialty nephrology in clinical technology, but not nephrology altogether. Otherwise, we'll have the regulatory body asking, how did you get that one right? And I just have two slides that I just will help give a bit of structure to give a background of my journey. So I'm just going to share my screen. Can you see my screen? Can you see my screen?
Now we can. Now we can.
We can. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm a clinical technologist by background, having qualified out of Durban University of Technology in '98 and specialized in nephrology. And having qualified at the first Black female, it kind of launched me into a space that was restrictive for my growth, given the background of our country's history on racial relations. The long story short, I then diverted to pharmaceutical business, which is where I spent 10 years of my career, where I was learning more the business of healthcare, understanding the healthcare value chain, where I also get the opportunity to be going to business school to understand, the commercial side of healthcare. After spending 10 years in pharma, in 2009, I wanted to pursue my own growth where I am able to chart my own path by starting a company called Brainwave Medical Group, whose main mission basically was to drive access to quality care for Africans. Now, I started the company as a medical tourism company where we were advertising South Africa as a medical destination to corporates in different countries, where we're servicing corporates out of Malawi, DRC, Kenya, Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and Ghana. This allowed us to be able to learn the lay of the land in the different countries to start to see where the gaps were in the access to care, and where we can be able to leverage what we have learned from the business side of healthcare. So this led to us in 2012 launching what would be Ghana's first private clinic that offers kidney dialysis and disease management in 2012 May. This didn't come without challenges because coming out of South Africa and you're going to launch a clinic in Ghana, there was a pushback from the public sector that, teaching hospitals regarded this space as a space that must only be done in public sector. You can't take tertiary healthcare to private sector. They hadn't grown that far versus countries like South Africa. So we were charting that path there to where today in Ghana, there's more than 20 providers in this space. Where we started, where we're just only the first ones and trying to create the guidelines of how it should operate. We also, had macroeconomic challenges where you go into a market where currency devaluation affected our investments into the country, and you lose a lot of capital. And then with that forcing us to say, okay, fine, the service is still needed. We are still needed here. How do we pivot that we're still able to meet the need, but at the same time still run a sustainable business? So this led us to changing our model in 2014, and taking the services and partnering Ghana's existing private hospitals, where then would bring in the expertise from South Africa into these hospitals when it comes to the area of nephrology, which is our second portfolio. So our first hospital in Ghana was in 2012, was the Trust Hospital Group, which is Ghana's largest private hospital group. They have 4 hospitals and 8 clinics. They are owned by their government pension fund. We serviced the Trust Hospital from 2014 to date. And from there, then you start building the reputation and the track record as being the leaders in this space and being accepted, because we are collaborating with existing entities that they have that equity with the people. From there onwards, we're currently deploying other centers, Accra Medical Center. And then the most exciting part is where we got invited by the Kwame Nkrumah University of Technology to set up their kidney dialysis specialist center that would service the Ashanti region. Now, as a foreign entity, and there's other 15, 20 players in the market, where you get to be invited to be the one who actually deploys this for us, that was quite an honor. So that should be commissioned by the South African ambassador to Ghana first week of October. From there onwards, what it helped us to do, being able to build a track record in Ghana and build capacity and scale, we were able then to come back to South Africa with less barriers to entry, because South Africa being a more mature market, the private hospital groups in this space prefer working with multinationals. So we were able to come back as a South African entity with a track record in Africa to approach RH hospitals, RH Boitumelo. They've got about 20 hospitals in the country as a provider for kidney dialysis services. And because we had the track record that we had been operational in this space for a while, they offered us that we can be able to start with the first outfit in Pietermaritzburg that is servicing the Umsunduzi community. So that became then our second portfolio, which is kidney dialysis, which fell within my specialty. And then the third and the last specialty, on our portfolio became e-health, where we're looking at the fact that digital health is an integral part of deploying quality healthcare in Africa. And we wanted to be able to play in that space. Last year, we were honored to be selected by Wits University as part of their Yabasadi in 4IR program, a program that is funded by JP Morgan in partnership with Wits, where they help us build capacity to be able to build these solutions that we can be able to deploy. Our selected areas being the area of education in healthcare, so that we can be able to manage quality assurance, and the area of integrated healthcare that is patient-centric, so that we can be able to manage disease. So far, those are the 3 portfolios that we have in the company. South African company, started as a startup, went to charter in markets where, as a small company, SMME, you were able to grow to a space where now you are back in South Africa and competing with multinationals. So that is our story as Brainwave Medical Group.
I mean, this is truly amazing. I think a truly Pan-African company. Just a question. I mean, you've had to go through uncharted territories and work in areas that you probably gave you as an individual, and what enabled you to navigate those markets, because they're quite different, I mean, to South Africa, right?
Yes. Well, for me, the biggest thing was willing to learn and willing to collaborate, because the markets are different, and the markets have got certain idiosyncrasies that might be different from South Africa. So if you want to impose your way of this is how we do it in South Africa, and therefore then you'd find that you wouldn't go as far as if you'd collaborate with local, and then with a shared vision, allow your local partnerships to drive how you penetrate the market. That allows you to be able to reach further than you would have if you were just coming as an individual with your own way of doing things from South Africa and imposing it into the new market.
No, thank you so much for that. Thank you. And then we'll take the next speaker, and our next speaker is going to be Dr. Thandeka